Go to Exodus 21. Open up the entire chapter.
21:20.
Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. Okay, right. So if you kill him, notice the slave's life is equal to his master's life. Number one, just because he's a slave or she's a slave, and just because she's a woman, doesn't mean that the master gets away scot-free if the slave dies. If the slave dies, the master must be killed because their life is equal. Did you pay attention to that? He stopped at 21, but he didn't read the rest of it. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Now, when it means punish, meaning that you don't kill the owner. But does that mean the owner does not get punished if the slave survives? Go to 26 and 27, what he did not read.
An owner who hits a male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. And an owner who knocks out the tooth of a male or a female slave must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth.
So notice, if he's injured the slave is free. But that doesn't mean now, if he injured the slave, he frees the slave, he can no longer own him, even though he purchased him. That doesn't mean he doesn't get punished, because now read again, let me read 26, 27 to show you that if an injury is inflicted on a slave, he's automatically free. She's automatically free. An owner who hits a male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. An owner who knocks out the tooth of a male or female slave must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. But now here's what's interesting. These two verses follow up verses 22 to 25. Now read 22 to 25.
If people are fighting and hit a pregnant woman and she gives birth prematurely, but there is no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demands and the court allows. But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for life. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruises for bruises.
Now 26 and 27.
An owner who hits a male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. And an owner who knocks out the tooth of the male or female slave must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth.
Did you see? It's not a coincidence that God inspired Moses to sandwich what happens to the owner when he punishes a slave with what's called the lax talionis, eye for an eye, tooth for an eye, meaning that the punishment, eye for an eye, is applicable to the owner, not only letting him go free, but also suffering due injury. Not everyone can recall the scriptures, but what this teaches everyone here is a very valuable lesson. Here's the lesson you need to learn. Learn to read the verses before and after. That's all. What happened was David stopped at 21. Why? Okay, Dave, read the rest of it. See what else it says right beyond it. So if you read 20 to 26, you see that this is thoroughly just, because you see the slave is not inferior to the owner. In fact, these laws presuppose that the slave has equal value to the owner, which is why if the slave dies, the owner must be killed. And if the slave is injured, you inflict similar injury to the owner, as well as let the slave go free. How in the world are these laws inhumane? Can you explain that to me?
Because Ibn Fuban did not see the rest of it. He was saying, so you will put the slave in ICU, urgent care, and you will still not be punished. But he didn't read the rest.
Is that what we just read? Is that what it says?
Oh, no, not at all. This is very clear.
Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, right?
Exactly.
And by the way, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth does not just apply for if a woman is caused to deliver prematurely and the baby dies. This command is found throughout the Pentateuch in different contexts. For example, can you do me a favor?
Yes, brother, please.
Go to Leviticus 24 and read from verse 19.
19. Anyone who injures their neighbors is to be injured in the same manner. Fracture for fracture.
Wait, say it again.
Anyone who injures their neighbors is to be injured in the same manner.
So wait. Is the slave a neighbor?
Yes, apparently yes.
Neighbor means someone who's a sojourner who lives with you in your midst.
Yes, according to the biblical terminology, yes.
And so what did Leviticus 24:19 say? You do, if you injure your neighbor, what happens to you?
Is to be injured in the same manner.
Now read 20.
Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The one who has inflicted the injury must suffer in the same injury.
Now, when we read in context, anything wrong with this command?
Not at all.
In fact, doesn't it show that God loves and honors the life of slaves and holds their lives as equal to the owners? So that if an owner kills a slave, the owner is dead. And if the owner injures the slave, similar injury will be inflicted on him.
Absolutely, according to the biblical teaching. Even Exodus 21
was... You free him?
Yes, sir.
Should free her, which he said
yes.
no, right?